So I'm happy to take questions at any time. Feel free to ask any questions. Did anyone have any questions from last week? Okay, I'll take that as a no, I think.
Nope.
Yeah, feel free to ask any questions if they come up. So today we're really focused on problem framing. So I set out 3 objectives for us to learn together today. So the first one is understand and apply a research approach to frame the problems that we're dealing with. The second one is define the methods that we can use depending on the stage of the design process that we're in. And then the third one is apply user research to understand human needs. So hopefully by the end, we'll at least have some sort of idea in terms of how we can achieve these 3 objectives. And then I think the real meat really will come in terms of the activity that we do together today, but also the homework that you'll do with your teams and with me during the week. So what we'll focus on, we'll quickly cover the UX design process. We'll talk about problem framing, how user interviews come in, how to capture insights, how to communicate your findings, and then we'll talk about teams and what we're going to do this week. Is everyone happy with that so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so the process. So this is kind of one way to visualize the process. There's multiple ways, but this is one way that's pretty simple. So this week we're going to be doing problem framing. Next week we're going to be doing ideation. The week after that we're going to be prototyping and testing, and then in the final week we'll talk about kind of designing an end-to-end experience that we can then go out and implement. Obviously it's up to you. If you really like your team and you think have a gold idea and you want to implement it, you can do so after the call. So one example that we're going to talk about today is Zimbabwe mental health crisis. So I was listening to this on my way back from work, and I was talking about how in Zimbabwe, I think there's 30 million people, but they only had 16 mental health specialists or psychotherapists. And there was kind of like this problem, right, where you have a lot of people that need help, but the people that can provide help, there's very few of them. Obviously, there's no way 16 people are going to serve 30 million people's mental health needs. But we'll talk about how they approach that problem and the ideas that they came to as a result. Okay. Any questions so far, or should we go to problem framing? Okay, we'll keep going. If I'm speaking too fast, please let me know. I know I tend to. Yeah, so just tell me to slow down if you're struggling to understand. Okay, so problem framing is about 3 things. It helps you identify the root cause, and if you can then identify the root cause, then you can start thinking about solutions. So I think it was Albert Einstein that said, if you gave me an hour to solve a problem, I'll spend the first 55 minutes understanding the problem and the last 5 minutes coming up with a solution. It helps you address the right problem. So often people will kind of, if they don't do research properly, they will start thinking the problem is one thing, or they'll think a symptom is a problem, and try to address that without addressing the underlying problem. And it ensures your ideas are aligned with user needs. So a simple example of that is like, when you go to the doctor and they ask you, okay, when was the last time you had a headache? How long did it last? What did you do to help yourself? Have you had it is it really sharp pain or is it really dull pain? Is that like a shared experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what the doctor is trying to do there is like trying to identify what the root cause of the problem is, because once he or she understands the root cause of the problem, then they can treat that and the symptoms will go away. And I think about user research in a similar, or problem framing in a similar sort of way, in terms of you really want to spend quite a bit of time, or as much time as you need, to understand what the problem really is, so that you're not just, putting band-aids on. So has anyone come across the double diamond before? This sort of diagram?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. So, it's visualized in different ways, but usually it's a double diamond. The stages are sometimes different and the sub-stages are different, but we'll just use this one for now. So the first one is discover, and that's where you do research to understand the problem. The next one is define, where you synthesize. So that's things like looking at clusters to identify, what are the themes that we're seeing here and what are the different parts of the problem. The third one is ideation, where we create ideas that we could potentially solve the problem. And then the final one is deliver, where we, basically like we pick the best idea that we have, or the idea that makes most sense, or the one that fits in the constraints or the funding, and then we implement that. So across the design process, there will be different types of research methods that you use. So initially, when you're trying to discover, you'll probably rely on user research and desktop research. So user research is things like interviews. You go into someone's house and you talk to them about, their experience shopping online, for example, and what that's like. Or you can do observations. So you can go and basically sit with someone who's online shopping, and they take you through the process of how they order their shopping online, how they receive it, how it gets delivered, and so on. Diary studies, that often happens remotely. So what people used to do a few years ago was, send like a packet of paper to the person who's like the research participant, and then the research participant will kind of use it as a diary to fill it out. These days, what happens is there's apps and things where, on Tuesday, you might send a question to the research participant and you say, what did you eat today? If your research is about food, what did you eat today? And then they take a photo of their food and they send it back to you. And then you can kind of dig a bit deeper into that in terms of, okay, why did you pick beans and rice, for example? Desktop research is understanding best practice and kind of like what your competitors are doing, but also to market size, to basically understand the size of the market for this problem. Does everyone know what market sizing is, or do you want me to go into it?
I could use some more definition. Okay.
So for example, so for example, if we want to come up with a new charger for the iPhone, right? Market sizing looks at, okay, how many people, what's the total number of people that we could sell this iPhone charger to? So it's probably billions of people that have, I assume, maybe hundreds of millions of people that have an iPhone. So you'd look at, in Australia, how many people have an iPhone, how many of those people would have an iPhone that we're building a charger for, and then your market sizing will be the number of million of people. Another way that you could do it is market size based on money, right? So for example, I was doing market sizing a couple of weeks ago, looking at small and medium enterprises, and I said this is how much money small and medium enterprises make, and that was one way to understand the market that we're playing in. Does that make sense?
Thanks.
Cool. So once you kind of synthesize and develop it and come up with ideas, you can do different things to understand how your idea works. So you can validate the idea. And often when we talk about validating the idea, we actually talk about making a prototype and validating that, because you'll find that when you're doing user research, people are really, really bad in terms of saying how likely they are to buy a product or a service. So usually we actually create a prototype and we say, we'll give you 50% off if you sign up now. And that's a much better measure of seeing whether your idea actually solves the problem. You could also rely on surveys, but again, people are not very good at saying, how likely they are to buy a product or a service. So usually we rely on idea validation, but some people do rely on surveys to kind of prioritize features. And then the last one is usability testing. So usability testing, you could do it with digital or physical products. So for example, if you're implementing a new website, what you would do is take out that website to people, you know, depending on who your customers are. Maybe it's people who are blind. Then you take it out to people who are blind and say, okay, let's try using this website and see what your experience is like. And that actually, surprisingly, uncovers a lot of problems with the products and services that we're designing. Often we design them for ourselves as opposed to the people that we're designing for.
Abram,
any questions about that?
Yeah, I have a
Yep.
question here. On this, so when you say research methods, right? If you look at it from an organization perspective, one is the design team and let's say one is a research team.
Yep.
So from this double diamond method, is it fair to say that the research team's work is done after usability testing results and they hand over the progress report and, you know, the insights to the design team?
That's a really good question. So right now I'm working on a website that's pretty significant. I can't tell what it is, unfortunately. But so there's a few things, right? A lot of times your usability testing will actually be either saying we need to design a new interaction or we need to, you know, make an interaction simpler. But sometimes it'll actually be saying we need to design a new experience, or we need to, for example, do research around the information architecture to organize the information better. So when we talk about like research in that delivery stage, it's actually supposed to kind of go around in a loop in terms of you kind of making recommendations and making sure designers have the support they need to do, and developers to do what they need to do, but then also taking what they do and, you know, testing it again. There is kind of different layers of usability testing. So simple usability testing is like putting up a screen on a website and getting, you know, 25 random people to guess where they would go to find this information or how to use a specific interaction, all the way to kind of moderated testing where you sit, like I sit with you and I say, okay, let's try to use this website. And I kind of ask you to complete different tasks and make sure that everything is clear. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So yeah, I don't think researchers ever needing to research, because there's always things that we want to design, and in order to, before we develop them, we have to test them and so on and so forth. But awesome question. Okay, so we'll talk about user research because that's kind of what's relevant for us now, because we're kind of coming up with problems and trying to understand what the root causes are. But as we go during the weeks, we'll come back to things like prototyping and things like validating ideas. Okay, so who knows anything about user research? And what do you know? I wanna hear from everyone. Vardman, I might pick on you because I know you know a bit about user research.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So user research, to my understanding, is after you've defined your problem statement, the basic idea for user research is validation, and how investigate and how much can you dig deep into finding out users' problems in terms of business concepts as well as design. That's what I found out during my case study while I was doing user research. And the methods what Abram highlighted are the tools that can help you get to the answer of what you're trying to solve and what you're trying to find out from users.
Awesome, thanks, man. Prasanna, you had something to say?
Yeah, in addition to what Vardman said, I think user research is the stage where you get a fair amount of understanding in terms of who the persona is going to be.
Oh, yeah. So you kind of understand who the people that you're designing for are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Virag, Natalie, or Arpit, do you have anything to add?
That's really, that was pretty comprehensive.
Cool.
Yeah, I think in addition to who they are, what they need, getting to the bottom of that.
Yeah, cool. Yep. So not just, it's a 25 to 30-year-olds, but it's 25 to 30-year-olds who need this problem solved. Cool. Awesome. All right. So for user research, we're really talking about people talking to people. It's really easy for a user researcher to kind of bring their ideas to bear, if that makes sense. So kind of, you think that you have the problem already figured out and you're already kind of thinking of solutions. The problem with that is that you don't know what the problem really is because you're still trying to do user research. But the second one is user research should be participant led. So it shouldn't be you leading the conversation. It should be you asking a broad question, and then the person, depending on what the person's answer is, you kind of digging deeper into that answer. So one thing that we say is really important is bringing a beginner's mindset. So you kind of want to admit what your biases are coming into this, and then try. And by you admitting it, hopefully that mitigates the chances that you'll influence people during your research. But also it means you can be sort of kind of like a blank slate, right? Like you're a gray man in terms of you're not trying to lead participants one way or the other. The second thing that we talk about is asking open questions. So you don't want to ask questions like, how awesome is this? Or questions like, how satisfied are you with this product? What you actually want to ask is like, okay, how do you currently solve this problem? Or why, if they say they're frustrated, you say, why does this make you frustrated? Or when was the last time you went online shopping? Or tell me about a time that you went to the doctor. Does that make sense? So you're really talking about like stories and asking them about their experiences, as opposed to kind of, asking them yes or no questions. The third rule that we talk about is listening and 20% talking. So if you find that you're talking a lot, that means that the user research is not going as well as it could. You kind of need to dial the talking back a bit so that you can listen to what people have to say about their experiences. The second last tip there is asking about stories. So kind of like, tell me a story about this. And this, you see it, for example, in interviews, right? So people when you're doing a job interview, people often don't say, what would you do if this happened? People say, tell me about a time where this happened and how you dealt with that. Because often the best predictor of future performance is past performance. It's not what I say I will do. It's what I've done previously. And then the last one there is to focus on quotes and behaviors. So quotes are really powerful in terms of kind of communicating with the design team or the product team what you're finding the problem to be. So that's why we focus on quotes. And behaviors tell you about whether people are kind of being really transparent with you, or whether their behavior says something else. So I'm not sure if anyone has heard about the 60-30-10 rule. 60 is your behavior or kind of your body language. 30% is your tone, and 10% is the words you say. So sometimes when you do user research quite a bit, you'll ask people about, how's this website going for you? And they'll be like, yeah, it's great. But, their face will be frowning and they'll be kind of really fidgety. And that tells you that, it's not great. Any questions about this?
So the 30% you said is tone, right?
Yes, tone of voice.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I have one quick question.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, like this research, like how do we have to do this research? Like, do we have to make personas, or like how we will be conducting this research?
Awesome. I think that's a really good question. We will talk about it more, but I'll give you a hint now. So there's a few ways that you can do user research. You can, for example, like at a shallow level, you can look at, what people post on social media about a specific problem. Yeah. But eventually you'll want to actually have a conversation with these people and say, when was the last time you experienced this problem, or things like that. And then in terms of actually communicating what you're finding, we'll talk about that in the next 5 minutes, I think. Does that answer your question for now?
Lock icon and check the icon. So user can.
Cool. I think I'll take that as a yes. But if I didn't answer your question, please tell me, and I'll try again. Okay. Does anyone know the iceberg? Okay. So basically the iceberg, I'm not sure if you've ever seen an iceberg, but say the water is like this. The iceberg is like a tiny bit at the top, right? And basically when people are talking about their experiences, they'll often talk about events, right? As opposed to things beneath the surface, like their beliefs and their value system that made them, experience it that way, experience the problem that way. So for example, if let's say if we're looking at the experience of visiting a doctor, right? The experience will be the event might be, I was sick, so I went to the doctor, right? That's useful information, but it's not that useful when you're doing user research and you actually need to deeply understand the problem. So when you ask someone about the last time they went to the doctor and they say, oh, I went to the doctor, I was sick, you really need to kind of dig underneath the surface to say, okay, what was that experience like? What that helps you do is you start to identify 3 things. So the first thing that you start to identify is patterns and trends, right? So what are the common sort of shared stories that happen for your customers? The second one is underlying structures in the system. So for example, one of the structures, for example, might be is that the doctor usually holds more power than the patient. Yeah, does that make sense? Feel free to tell me this doesn't make sense. Use a different example or elaborate.
Go on, it makes sense.
Okay, and then the mental models, that's for example, people believing that doctors are in it for healing, or people believing that, a doctor should do their best to help you. So depending on how deep you go and depending on the problem, you might need to go pretty deep to understand what are the assumptions, beliefs, and values that people hold. And that helps not just when you're kind of creating a product, but when you're transforming a system. So say for example, Uber, right? They were able to transform the system because they got to understand what are people's assumptions, beliefs, and values that they hold in terms of transport, in terms of their current experiences with taxis, right? And because they could meet kind of people's unmet needs in terms of money, in terms of like how accessible the transport was and things like that, they could transform the entire system to kind of shift all these people from using taxis or using their own transport to using Uber. Any questions about this? I would say the big thing I want you to learn from this is, so once you ask someone in user research, tell me about a time, when was the last time that you went to the doctor, or when was the last time that you went to the shops? And they say, I needed to buy this and I did that. What I want you to do is say, okay, why did you do that? And what happened when you did that? And what did you expect? Right? So you need to kind of drill a bit deep into why people are doing the actions that they're doing, and in order to really design a product that meets their needs or a service that meets their needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to practice this. Oh, actually here. So, Arpit, I think this relates to what you're talking about, but we'll talk a bit more about it. So there's these two findings, right? The one on the left is the mother found it difficult to bring the water from the well, right? And then the second one is I keep going to the well, but the line is long and my child is crying. I go back home to put him to sleep, and then I go back again and the line is still really long. Anyone who wants to compare these two findings for me? So if I came back from research and I gave you the one on the left, and Vardman or Virag gave you the one on the right, what are the similarities between the two?
I mean, they are basically saying the same thing, but there's so much more detail on the right about the reason behind the difficulty, and the context.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just way
Awesome.
more rich.
Yep. Anyone else?
I find the yellow one to be much more focused on the problem
Mm-hmm.
rather than the regular one,
Mm-hmm.
which is on the left side, because we are getting the details of the problem in the yellow.
Yep. Awesome. Anyone else? Maybe a third person who wants to contribute?
We can probably find a more accurate solution by looking at the description on the right rather than the one on the left.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of looking at the iceberg, like everything that you said is perfect. You guys sound like expert user researchers. The one on the left is just looking at the events, right? The mother found it difficult to bring water from the well. I mean, that's a fact and it's true, right? But the one on the right, like you said, is so much more helpful in terms of context, in terms of us understanding what the problem really is, right? Like from that, you can tell, for example, that, well, first of all, difficulty isn't just about, walking distance. It's also that the line is long, right? So there's a lot of demand. And also I have a child. So, I have to take my child, I have to wait in line, and then I have to go back back home to put him to sleep. And then I have to go back to the well. The line is long and I've left my child by himself. So yeah, exactly what you said. Now, I think this should hopefully answer your question. So in terms of capturing method, what we usually do is capture things on post-it notes, or even if we kind of take handwritten notes, what we eventually do is transfer them to post-it notes or virtual post-it notes. And what that really helps us do is it helps us cluster different themes together, okay? So the yellow ones are the post-it notes, and this is a common way of doing it. The left column is observations. So, I noticed the person is fidgeting about when I asked them this question, or, we're doing an observation about online shopping and they were really frustrated about items not being available. The right hand side column is about quotes. The mother saying, "Oh crap, this is so annoying." That's a quote. And then based on all our findings, what we start to do is we cluster them, like I said, based on different themes. So one theme, for example, might be around parenthood, right? Like if we're looking at mothers going to the well to access water, one is around parenthood and how that affects people. One theme might be like the actual time and effort it takes to go to the well. And then another one might be, for example, about carrying the water. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have a crack at this. So now it's your turn. Oh, and this is kind of what it looks like in action. Like you can see, for example, this is like a typical whiteboard of user research findings that you're trying to synthesize. You can see, for example, like the pink ones are the themes, the yellow ones are the findings, and maybe, the bright yellow ones are the quotes. This isn't my picture, I just took it from Medium. All right, so your turn. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna pair you up, and I want you to choose a topic So you can choose the experience of giving a gift, or designing the perfect wallet and understanding what people need from a perfect wallet, or you can come up with your own thing. And then I want you to ask open questions to understand people's experience. So one person, you know, for 5 minutes, one person gets to be the researcher and the other person gets to be the participant. And then for the next 5 minutes, we swap roles. Does that make sense? Any questions?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to put you in separate rooms now. Let's see how. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Yeah, so so something 45 with your time. Hey, Arpit.
Yeah.
I think you need to move to breakout room 1. Did you get a notification or something that says, take me there? Something like that?
I didn't either.
Oh, you didn't, because you and I
we
are going to
are
be
paired up. Okay, makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Which one do you want to choose?
I think I could go with the giving a gift.
Okay, awesome. Do you want to start as a researcher or do you want to start as participant?
Yeah, I could start with the research one. So give it a go.
Awesome. Fire away. I'm ready.
Yeah. So can you recall the last time you were giving somebody a gift?
It's a good question. It's been a while with coronavirus. Oh yeah, I do remember. So right in the middle of coronavirus, my wife and I went to Vietnam, and we got gifts for our parents and family in Australia. So yeah, we bought the gifts from like street shops and stuff in Vietnam. I remember we bought mum a hat. It's right there actually. We bought my mum and my wife's mum hats, and yeah, we came back and gave it to them.
And how did you feel when you gave them the gift?
I felt pretty good. So it's interesting. Like my wife likes to get something that's really nice, and I like to get something that's really functional. Like I want to give a gift and then I can see the person using it, as opposed to just something that sits as decoration. But I think the hat was like a nice thing that we managed to find. And the other thing I think that we try to balance is like making sure the presents are like at equal level, you know what I mean? So no one gets upset. So felt pretty good.
Yeah, okay. So being usable and kind of being equal is important to you.
Yeah. My wife and I'm more like usable. My wife is kind of more like really nice. She doesn't care if it's usable or not, as long as it's, as it shows that we appreciate the other person and we've thought about them. Whereas I'm like, yeah, that's important, but I also want to, I want to get the satisfaction of seeing them use it.
Yeah. Can you recall a time when it was difficult for you to choose a gift to somebody?
It was difficult to choose. Oh yeah. It's actually pretty difficult to choose sometimes for my wife, because I want to get something really nice. I want to get something really nice for her, but like at the same time, I know she appreciates like giving, like being thoughtful. You know what I mean? Like it's not just about the price for her. It's more about like you know, did the person really kind of think of something that I would like, and did they put effort into the present? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do you normally pick presents? For example, like you could buy, you could make things. Do you have any preference, or it depends on the person?
I'm definitely a buyer, but for
Okay.
my wife, what I try to do is like I try to find an experience that I think she'd really like. And I try to put in effort, like not in terms of the present so much, but in terms of the experience. Like if it's her birthday or an anniversary or something, I'll plan something special. I'll say, you know, don't worry about it. I have a surprise for you. So that's kind of where I try to put in effort. But with presents, I'm usually like, yeah, just take my money. I know she'll want this thing.
Yeah. Sounds like a good strategy. And on the other side, what do you enjoy as somebody who receives gifts? What's your favorite thing to?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I really enjoy experiences. Like usually I'll know what I want, or I'll know like the types of things I want. And usually my wife will just say like I know you have the list. I save a list of like a wish list, and my wife will be like, just send me the wish list and I'll get you something off it. But usually like she goes above the wish list. Like she'll be like, oh yeah, like I know he wants this from the wish list, so I'll get it for him, but I'll also get him something else. Like I think last birthday she got me a diving experience to get my diving license. Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I asked everything I wanted to. Do you have any other thing that you want to talk about regarding to gift giving?
Yeah, I guess one of the things is like the role of cards, right? Like some people kind of take a card and never open it, and other people like my wife and me, we really like cards. Like my wife loves receiving cards and loves writing cards, and I don't love writing cards because I'm not very good. But I love receiving like a heartfelt card from someone, especially when it's someone that you care about and that you kind of you're close with. Like randoms, I don't really care if they don't give me a present or a card, but for family members and like close friends, I really like it, like receiving the cards, and I save them and stuff. So I think that plays an important role, because it's not just about like, you know, getting something new for me. It's about like, yeah, again, like the person putting in effort and like showing how they feel about you. Yeah.
Okay, I have one. Thank you for that. I have one last question. Do you have a gift that you are the proudest of that you gave somebody? That was.
Gift that I'm really proud of. It's a hard question. You're asking good questions. Have you done user research before? Oh yeah, I know. When my wife and I got married, our parents helped us like a lot, like not just in getting married, but like obviously as we grew up older. So we decided to get them like a travel gift voucher to kind of go on a holiday together. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that gift because it wasn't like so much about the money. It was just symbolic. Like it was saying thank you for all the work that they've done.
Abram, sorry, I have to drop off for
Okay,
some.
that's okay.
Yeah.
All good. You're in a team, yeah? You're all good with the team?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll send an email of like what you need to do this week.
Awesome. Thank
All
you,
right,
Abram.
take care. Thanks, man. Hey, so how'd you go?
I think we did good. We uncovered a lot. Like the more we talked, the more we're like, oh yeah, that would also definitely change the experience.
What did you do? Did you do gift giving?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
we did gift giving.
Awesome. Prasanna and Apit, how did you go?
So yeah, the topic we chose was the perfect wallet,
Oh yeah.
and we kind of just brainstormed the idea of a perfect wallet depending on the kind of physical wallets that we currently use and what additions or what kind of new features would make it a better wallet in terms of the usage as well as the daily upkeep in general.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Sounds good. What I want you to do is I want you to go to Miro and just spend 3 minutes maybe writing down all your or some of your findings. It doesn't need to be like, you don't need to write everything. It's just exercise. But you'll see under number 2, you will see that I put down kind of a board for each team. Does that make sense? Do you know how to put post-it notes?
Yeah.
Cool. You can
Yeah.
just press N on your keyboard and it will create one. Prasanna, you need to come down. Keep going down. Yeah, keep going down.
Oh, this is cool. You can track my cursor movement.
Yeah, go left. You'll see that
Right.
box. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Arpit, I'm not sure where you are. Arpit, are you on Miro or do you need help?
I need help actually.
Yeah. You're a good man. I'll send it to you in the chat.
Okay.
Let me know if you're having any trouble with it. Okay, you should have the link now in the Zoom chat. So what I want you to write is, and remember what the difference between a good finding and a bad finding. A good finding is like pretty descriptive. You understand the context and so on and so forth, as opposed to just a bad finding that's like just stating the event.
Hey, Vardhaman, are you there?
No, he had to leave. I think he had another meeting.
Oh, okay.
So if you go down, you'll see Natalie starting to put some post-it notes in your little box. Not that far down. Go up a bit. Yeah, up. Yeah, there you go. So to add a post-it note, you just press N and it will ask you which color you want to add, and then you can go from there. All right, just 1 more minute. I wanna finish on time, so you guys can go. I don't wanna keep you back, unless you're happy to. I'm happy to stay all night if you want. Welcome back, Virag. Sorry we lost you.
Hi all. Sorry, I got some technical issues here.
Sorry we lost you. So Virag, what we're doing is on the Miro board. Do you have the link? Let me know if you need me to send you the link. But on the Miro board, okay, cool. On the, you'll find the box that says findings Virag and Abram.
Okay.
Just want you to post a note, a couple of post-it notes based on what we discussed in terms of what you would say the findings are. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. So we might pause it there. So yeah, how did you find that? Natalie, do you want to go?
Oh, yeah, sure. Arpit and I were kind of just going back and forth about what has changed a gift's impact for us and what has changed the experience, what has made a good or bad gift for us in the past, what kind of affects that. And then we were going from there, kind of listing what we could think of.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I can see amount of effort, time, and thought put into the gift and psychological impact. That's interesting. Cool. Prasanna, do you want to share a little bit about how you found that?
Yeah, so we chose a perfect wallet as the topic. And at first we were wondering if it's a software wallet or if it's a physical wallet, but we settled on a physical wallet anyways. And in our discussion, in an attempt to come up with the perfect wallet, we talked about the current challenges that we face with respect to our wallets, which is we keep losing them. So it would be nice to have a tracking system enabled within the wallet through an app with which you can find its location. And also some kind of anti-theft system, wherein if the wallet is beyond certain radius from the individual, it starts to give a notification on the phone, or starts making some kind of noise.
Awesome. I think that's really good. I would encourage you to focus on like the challenges with the current, the current wallet's design, if that makes sense, as opposed to
I'm done.
what you would do differently. I guess so in design, what we like, you might have a need, right? But that need, you can solve it using different ways. You can solve it, 10 different ways. And what you really want to do is get a handle on what the problem really is before you start thinking about what are the different ways that you could solve that problem. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, good work. Virag, do you want to? Oh, yeah.
You're not audible, I guess. I'm not able to hear you.
Sorry, what did you say? Up it. Sorry, I didn't get that. Okay, we'll come back to up it. Virag, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, we talked about the experience of giving gifts. So I found some interesting distinctions between different types of people, what they prefer. For example, what you mentioned about your wife, that there is some people who prefer useful gifts versus nice gifts, and then the whole experience of the thoughtfulness and effort that goes into it. So yeah, I just try to identify different preferences or potential user groups, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Very nice. Okay, so we're going to go quickly through capturing insights. So basically, once you've clustered your different findings, what you want to do is for each theme or each group of clusters, what you want to do is one of the frameworks that we use is called the 5 whys, and basically you state what the theme is about, right? So for example, people. So for example, for the wallet, one of the problems is that it's really easy to lose your wallet. Okay, and then you ask yourself, well, why is it easy to lose your wallet? Well, you'll sit down and then you'll take it out and you'll forget that you left it on the table. Okay, why is it that people forget that they leave it on the table? Maybe the current design of wallets are really small, so it's really, or maybe the color blends into the table. Okay, well, why does the color blend into the table? Does that make sense? So all of a sudden you've gone from, the problem is losing your wallet to actually the problem isn't about losing your wallet. The problem is about how visible the wallet is when you put it down in a location. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you use when you pick the problem that you will pick with your team this week, after you do a bit of research, kind of use that 5 whys to kind of get to the depth of the problem. And you'll find that the more research that you do, that your brain already like stores information in your head about what you've heard and what you've witnessed and things like that. So you'll be able to really kind of drill down into the problem and understand what the root cause is. Okay. That's okay. So, okay, communicating your findings. So there's different ways you can communicate your findings. One is like, so for example, the user, so, 25 to 30-year-old males needs to have visible wallets because the current wallet design blends into the surroundings, for example. Okay, so you kind of replace the things between brackets. The other framework that you can use is job stories, and that basically says when situation is supposed to have a closed bracket. I want what the motivation is so I can achieve an outcome. So for example, when I, get home or visit a friend's house, I want to make sure my wallet is on me so I can walk out with it. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so different ways of visualizing your findings, and I believe you asked about this. So there's different ways. One is an empathy map, which is the one on the left, and you kind of put the user in the middle, and then you say, okay, what do they say? What do they think? What do they feel? And what do they do? The other one is a customer journey map, and you can kind of do that for current and future state. Current state is like what's wrong right now, and future state is like when you're coming to design a new experience. You use it for that. And then another way to kind of communicate your insights is to have a how might we question. So if you figure out that the problem is, for example, what's the problem? Say the wallet blends into the surrounding materials. The question might be, okay, how might we make the wallet really visible so it's easy to know if it's with you or if it's on the table. Okay, and then you would list the specific insights that you have under those, which could be the themes that you came up with, and then you would say, list the quotes that you've heard from people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Don't worry. Look a bit confused about that. What we're gonna do? Okay, team formation. I'll skip this bit. Is everyone in a team? If you check Miraboard.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me know if you need to change teams. Like I think there's a team of 4. If you want to kind of split into 2 teams, that's okay. Just let me know. So this week's focus is we're gonna do 4 things. So I want you to meet with your team and discuss who's going to do what, and then pick a problem to focus on. And again, the problem isn't like we want to do X. The problem is we want to understand why people are going through this problem. Okay. And then the third thing, maybe try to pick a problem that you will have access to people with, like maybe it's family members or friends that you can schedule half an hour call with them and say, okay, what's happening for you in that space? And then the fourth thing is I want you to schedule time with me using this link. It will be half an hour chat to go through what you found through your research and how you can kind of share your findings with others. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions before we close off?
I have one.
Yeah.
For the visual findings like empathy map and customer journey map, do you find that you utilize that more for your own purpose or to communicate what you've already done with like your team or a client, or is it for you?
So I'm in a, well, actually, no, I've played both roles where I have like a clear client versus it's just for me. It's often, so I would say it's for both. It's actually to help you organize your own thoughts, but also to help share those findings with people so that it's really clear for them, this is the current experience that people are going through, and these are the current pain points or problems that people are experiencing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a whole ton of tools. This isn't supposed to be like a deep dive, but yeah, depending on what you find and what problem you focus on, I might give you different tools for your group when we do that 30-minute call. Any other questions?
Yeah, like if we want to post some question, like where we can reach out you or others.
Yeah, for sure. So that's why we created the Slack channel so that we can, you can ask any questions that you want. Feel free to kind of say, we want to chat to you. Can we just set up a call quickly? Yeah, I'll make myself available.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone, reach out on Slack, and if Natalie knows the answer or Prasanna knows the answer, they'll answer. If not, I'll answer.
Is that link anywhere else to schedule a time with you?
Good question. I'll add those ones to an email, and maybe I'll post it to Slack. I'll post it to Slack, and then that way it's that way it's really easy for you to know what you need to do and have to schedule the time.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay.
One more quick question, like this activity, like till next Friday we have to finish everything, right?
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Try to do as much or as little. It doesn't have to be, something that takes days. It can literally just be like meeting together for half an hour, doing research for half an hour, and then doing synthesis together for half an hour. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. Obviously, in real life, like you might spend 2 to 4 weeks doing research. It really depends on what the problem you're focusing on is. But for our purposes, and I know you're all busy people. So yeah, spend as much time as you'd like on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last thing that I would like to do, if no one has any questions, is if you see number 4, I would love your feedback. Yeah, both positive and constructive. Don't hold back. I'll hide your arrows, and then that way I don't know who's writing what. How about that? And if you don't feel comfortable sharing it on Miro, you can also Slack me or send me an email. That's cool too. But yeah, it would be awesome to get some feedback just to make sure, you know, that your experience is as good as possible.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Stop sharing. Yeah, Phil. So yeah, get in touch with your team. Let me know if you're struggling to reach them or anything. If you need anything, just reach out to me.
Sure.
Will do. Thanks again.
Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bram.
Take care. Bye.
Nice day.